I was saying was welcome back, but even if you were not with us last time, I'm not assuming any prior knowledge in what we're going to talk about today. Last week, for those of you who missed last week, we did a first half of this conversation where we talked about responsible AI usage, focusing very much on text-based tools. Today, we're going to focus on image generation. I'm going to put up the same learning goals, though, that I showed last week, because the hope is that by the end of these two sessions, you will have developed some greater understanding of what AI is and is not, that we will first and foremost try to de-hype, de-jargon, and reduce the panic that sometimes exists around AI, especially in a lot of what we're reading in the media. That we will learn how to use some of these tools and talk about what they can be good for in your own work. And we will get to have a deeper discussion, I hope, today about risk. We started some of that discussion last time, but I know there's a lot of questions and concerns, and we want to definitely spend more time on that. I will offer one qualification. Hannah talked about doing discussion at the end, but I do want to make sure to take questions throughout to the extent to which people have clarifications. I'm going to have some questions for you. So Hannah, I'd like to make this as interactive as possible so that we have as much time to hear from people. Quick disclaimer again, same thing I offered last time. I'm going to show you a bunch of commercially available tools. These are not endorsements of these platforms, but we want to show you what they look like and how they are. I am happy to talk about what, and I think people here who have tried many of them will have their own advice about what's good for what purpose. It is not an endorsement of any particular tool. Last time, and this is the one slide that I'll repeat. Last time we talked about the idea that AI at its most basic is really just a set of data processing tools. And in particular, generative AI, because these are tools, this is software that has ingested and been trained on a large number of words, is really, really good at doing tasks involving words. But today what we're going to focus on is data in the sense of pictures and images. These tools have also, in these software programs, have ingested large numbers of pictures from the internet, and can therefore use them to create new pictures and to analyze pictures. And that's what we're going to look at. But I want you to just have in your head that these are really just a kind of data processing tool. Think about it as a next evolution, if you will, either in the calculator or Microsoft Word. But in the same way that these have been robust all-purpose tools for helping us to do our jobs better, that is the ways in which we can think about a lot of these technologies today. There's a bigger debate about whether these tools are intelligent. I would say they are not. But we're not going to be spending our short hour today talking about the long off future and the robot apocalypse and whether AI, I think there was a movie that came out recently about a AI that, of course, engages in world domination. And I forgot, 10 years ago, it would have been Bruce Willis. I forgot who was the hero who had to go out and kill the AI, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're going to talk about some very basic ways in which we can use tools that are available right here, right now, to do useful and interesting and productive things. Again, many of you here have already tried these tools and have your own ideas. And so I want to encourage you to kind of keep this conversation going in 3 dimensions. That is to say, we'll both be talking like this, but please use the chat also to talk to one another and share what you know. And I'm not assuming that anybody's coming to this with any prior knowledge. So some of the most common platforms now for image generation include Midjourney, include DALL-E 3, which is a product of OpenAI, and include also the open source image generator Stable Diffusion, which is the first tool that I want to show you. And again, as we're talking, you can also feel free to go along. You can Google Stable Diffusion and pull up these tools for yourselves. So I'm going to take a poem. In this case, there's probably, there's few poems probably more famous than this one. I think that I shall never see, a poem lovely as a tree. I have taken the text of this poem and I have pasted it into Stable Diffusion. And this is what it gives me. It will generate an image for me based on a text. I can then paste in the same text. And if you, Stable Diffusion has a little button right here. That button that you see indicates a kind of menu, and it pulls up a drop-down menu, and it gives me some options. What kind of an image would I like? So when I didn't tell it anything and I just gave it the text, this is what it gave me. And in fact, it gave me a number of different choices and options, this being one of them, to illustrate, I think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree. But then I pull up this little slider, this little menu, and it gives me a set of options. And I can say, oh, I'd like, do I want to have it be an anime style or photographic or neon punk? I can suggest, again, it gives me a number of different menus I can choose from. So I chose to push the origami button. And fast forward, this is what I got. I quite like this image. And if you look at the bottom, I'm going to move my nice little pictures of all the people here. You'll see it gives me a number of different options. And I can then choose one of them that I want to enlarge and I want to download, or I could have it generate another image, or I could give it some other kind of instruction. So you'll see it's tremendously imaginative in terms of the ability to create images whole cloth, very professional quality, high quality images that you can use for a variety of purposes. Stable Diffusion is trained on a large number of images off of the internet. And this is an example of a search tool that someone has built. There's literally billions of images that it's been trained on. This is a search tool of a smaller set of images. I'm sorry, I think it's million. It's about 22 million images, if I remember correctly. This is a smaller subset of this. But I put in the word tree, and it shows me, and I can scroll through all of the images that it has found on the internet and ingested. And it's based on these images that it's creating the images that you saw previously. So again, it's looking at patterns in the same way that a child learns language. It hears its parents and other people say words, it learns the patterns of those words, and then a child is able to replicate those patterns. Generative AI can do that with words. It can do that with images. It can also do that with music. All of these things are just data, and there is structure and patterns to the data, and that's why the tools are really good at essentially just repeating those patterns and predicting what the next word or image or note should be, and that's what makes generative AI so exciting. Now, when you're guiding these tools to create images, you can be and you want to be as detailed as you can possibly be. So you can say, give me an image of a tree, and it will give you something. But you can also tell it this. Imagine a serene, fantastical landscape set in the late afternoon. In the foreground, there's a crystal clear, gently flowing river, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. To the left of the river, I want a meadow, I want wildflowers, I want these colors for the flowers. So you can be very, very detailed in your instructions. And if you give it a very detailed instruction, if you take these instructions and paste them in, which is what we're going to do here with DALL-E. So again, this is OpenAI's image generation tool is called DALL-E. Very similar, kind of just an open line, just like you would see on Google, just a blank line. You can paste in those instructions. And here is the instructions you can see at the top, the language I just showed you. And this is the set of images that it gives me. And it will ask me, how did I do? Was this response better or worse? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. How am I doing? You don't have to be content with what it's given you. Maybe you take a look at it and say, that's exactly what I had in my mind and what I wanted to see. Or maybe you want to tell it, no, I want more reds or blues. I want this style or that style. I want it more photorealistic, or I want it in an anime style. Again, the more detail you give it, the closer the image will be to what you envision or what you have in your head, or frankly, I couldn't even imagine something like this in my head, but the more it will give you something that you can use for your purposes. So let me pause here for a moment and just see if there are any comments or questions or any confusion at this point, or anything anybody wants to share in terms of your own experience with these image generation tools. Here's a large screen of the image that it created based on this prompt. Yeah.
We have one clarifying question and then another one. The first is, do images include tables and figures or just pictures?
Do images include, so ChatGPT itself, so OpenAI has the ChatGPT product and the DALL-E product. They are actually integrated in the paid version of ChatGPT, and I can show you that in a moment. We'll do some live demo in a second. It does tables and charts in regular old ChatGPT. You don't even need DALL-E to do that, but again, because they're more seamlessly integrated, it knows which tool it can pull from. Also, ChatGPT has done a deal with the website Wolfram Alpha. If any of you have tried it, Wolfram Alpha is a computational search engine. Stephen Wolfram, sorry, it's the name of a guy. He's a mathematician, and he has been developing computational tools for many, many years. And so Wolfram Alpha, the name of his website and his tools, is very good at doing things that are especially computational. So in short, yes, it does work with tables and images and figures as well, and can produce such things in addition.
We have another question. Can we control the resolution of the generated image?
Yes, so you can tell it. And again, let me also invite any contradictory or supplementary advice. These tools are all very new, and you may know something that I don't know or have tried something. A lot of what I know is from just trying things. But yes, you can tell it the resolution that you would like, and depending on the tool, it will give you a better or worse version of doing things. So now I have a note to myself to do some live demos. So I'm going to stop the share for a moment. I'm going to go over and I'm going to ask you to tell me, whoops, I'm going to go over to ChatGPT, which I have loaded, and we can try something. Let me see if I have, here we go. Here's ChatGPT. So I am running GPT-4, which has DALL-E integrated, as you will see. I'm going to move all these nice photos of everybody out of the way and my menus out of the way. But you'll see it says GPT-4 with DALL-E, browsing and analysis. So when you get 40 messages for 3 hours for my $20 that I pay them. But you can, on the free version is called, you still have access to these tools, but a kind of downgraded version that's less integrated. But I can choose GPT. The free version is called GPT 3.5. DALL-E GPT-4 is what you get for your $20 with DALL-E integrated. So let's try something. I'm looking for a suggestion. What would we like to generate? We've got a lot of people here.
Image of, oh.
Go ahead. I hear somebody unmuting. An image of what?
Oh, sorry. An excavator exploding.
Any parameters you want to give us?
Cartoon style. Minimal background.
Okay, minimal background. All right. Who said that, by the way? Tell us who you are. Well,
hello, my name is Oren. I'm here from the Department of Public Utilities.
In what state?
Sorry, in Massachusetts.
Hello, Oren from Massachusetts. Okay, it is generating an image. Let's see what we can do with it. Pow, there you go. Cartoon style image of an excavator exploding, created with vibrant colors and exaggerated effects. I like it. And now I can, first of all, I can give it a rating up or down. I can tell it how it's doing. And right here, I can download it, and then I can use it for myself if I want to put it in. Oren, tell us why you suggested this. Do you have a need for this professionally, or just you're looking out your window at an excavator?
Yes, so I do some of our outreach and design for posters and the like, and I'm in the damage prevention department, and we basically tell people do this and this and this so you don't blow yourselves up. And it's always good to have images of things like an excavator or somebody striking a gas line that isn't necessarily a photo.
It is good to have images, and we're going to come to talking now more about use cases. Tell me, Hannah, are we seeing my slides again, or are we on ChatGPT?
We're back in your slides.
Okay, I love the fact that it knows how to do this now. All right, I'm going to keep going because I want us to have enough time to talk about more uses. So I'm going to show you another thing you can do with these, which is called outpainting. So outpainting, I have no idea who made up this term, but outpainting is a thing you can only do, well, a professional designer could do this, but you can do this very easily with these image generating tools. What outpainting does, it's such a novel concept. It's hard to even, I still am kind of flabbergasted we can do this. Maybe let me show you, and then we'll think about how to describe it. So I said, I want to try outpainting. Can you show me, sorry, I didn't even use correct English here, but it still knew what I wanted. Can you show me more of the background of the attached image? And I uploaded Vermeer's Girl with a Pearl Earring. See her here? So because this is a famous image, so I gave it this image, and it then gave me a background. It zoomed out, if you will, and showed me what's going on outside the frame of my image. She now has more jewelry. She has a bracelet to match her earrings. She's got a kitchen backdrop back of her. But now I said, go even further back. And now here's what I got. So it's effectively zooming out in a fictional image. So again, I'm generating a fictional image, and then it's showing me, when I say show me the rest of the scene. So Oren wanted me to do very little background. I'm tempted, I want to have enough time for discussion, so I probably won't do, maybe if we have time, we'll outpaint Oren's excavator and try to give it a backdrop. But you can create the scene. It can imagine the whole scene surrounding your image, which I just think is this. Here she is, our girl with a pearl earring. Actually, we've got a couple of girls with a pearl earrings, and we have a few other Dutch people it's imagined in the background. But it's given me a whole scene to go with it. But what I want to do is to spend a few minutes talking about why we would want to do this. What would you use it for in government? So Oren's given us some uses, or the use for his job. I'm going to give you one more use for my job, which is I wrote a blog post yesterday about a new study on the use of AI. It was a study done to create a chat bot for Congress, and asked people, the study related to whether constituents who wrote a letter to their member of Congress trusted, how people felt about a letter that was generated by the usual congressional staff and interns, how people felt about a reply letter that was generated, was kind of a canned response, versus how people felt about an AI generated reply that they got. So I wrote a blog post, and then I asked ChatGPT to create, or DALL-E, sorry, to generate an image to go with the blog post. And I got this very nifty sort of high impact image. Actually, this was not the first image I generated. I generated another image, and then I said, hey, I actually want something that has the Capitol in the background and some flags. And it gave me exactly what I wanted, and I put it on my blog post. So I want to ask you, what do you see yourself using it for? And I'm hoping we can take a couple of comments here. And so I'll look for some raised hands or things in the chat. Again, to raise your hand, you would click, I believe, on, you should see the button that says reactions at the bottom of your screen. And you can use that to raise hands. Is it under more or under reactions? I think it's under...
It depends on your computer. So some you might have the reactions right at the bottom. And if you don't see it, then click on the more 3 dots and click on reactions, and the raise hand function should come up. Okay, I see a raised hand from Louise and from Diane.
And Diane, yes. So Louise, what would you do with these tools?
Hi, I'm looking at them for a user experience. We're building our practice at the city of San Antonio. And so one of the things is we have a lot of data, we've got feedback coming in. So analysis and then maybe generating a summary and that type of thing. I've looked at other tools that have been building this in, but also looking at these independent tools.
Cool. And Diane, and by the way, Louise, it sounds like you're with the city of San Antonio. Did I get that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. Diane, tell us who you are and what you want to do with these tools. And please, others, feel free to share in the chat.
I work for the Department of Environmental Protection, the Blue Acres program, and our mission is
federal or state? Federal or state?
State.
Where are you?
For the
state.
state
Which
of New Jersey.
Hello. Okay.
And our program is focusing on helping homeowners as well as tenants that are in flood-prone areas and relocating them to safer ground. As DEP, then the homes that we demolish will be, that area will be conservation for wildlife and that, and trying to build up the areas that have been flooded repetitively.
So where would these tools help you?
It would help with the imaging of when we're doing presentations and trying to bring the realization of the effects of hurricanes and the flooding and the climate change, the rising sea waters and everything. And sometimes I think things are more, when people visualize it, it has sometimes a more impact than somebody just standing there telling them. So if we're able to, like I said, able to show them the effects and bringing a real time image during a presentation, it may be more, that's the word I'm looking for. It may help them in deciding to buy into the buyout and that, because some people, I don't believe, understand the detrimental outcome of these hurricanes and how people are affected. And some are thinking, it's not real. So a picture sometimes has a tendency to bring the reality of things. And this would be very helpful.
Worth 1,000 words. Hannah, anything exciting in the chat that we're missing?
Oh, we've got some good suggestions. So someone says, we are a housing agency, can use pictures to advertise our services, pictures of families in front of houses. Some people say images for training slides and newsletters. Someone said they would try to use it to visualize skills-based hiring. Someone else said they would use images for PowerPoint presentations, assuming copyright isn't an issue.
Let's take one more from the room. I have Jiri here. Tell me if I'm pronouncing it correctly. One more use, and then we'll move ourselves forward.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. So I was thinking, like, I work for transportation agency. I think these kind of tools will help, like, if safety wise, you can tell, like, if you go in this route or if you hit this ramp. So this can, we can visualize more, or if something like accident happen, the police reporting purpose also, if you can give the AI tools, they can draw perfectly, right? That's what I'm assuming. Yeah.
Yes, you are right. And it's just, don't forget, we've all used images up until now. It's not that we didn't have images last year. Faster, easier, cheaper to create a lot of images a lot more easily. I'm going to show you a list of some additional use cases just to give you some ideas here. These reflect some of the things that people have already said. And I'll just leave that up there for the moment. And we can also, again, if there's any issue with an accessibility perspective, I can read things out loud if anybody needs me to, or we can put them in the chat as well. But we've mentioned, people have talked about training materials and educational materials and customized communication. And let me show you two more examples that I've put in here. Oops, I'll share these slides with you afterwards. So this is kind of this is the same list you just saw, but with descriptions of each of those use cases. So I'll leave that up there for a minute, but then again, let us share these slides with you afterwards. But I wanted to leave some more details for people to be able to look at, to suggest things that you might do in your own job. And I'm going to keep going here to show you a couple of additional examples. Let me just put down, there we go. So this is a group called Urbanist AI. They are a collective, they have people all over the world, and they do citizen engagement and urban planning exercises using these kinds of tools with residents. So these kinds of tools make it really easy to sit down with a group of residents and say, let's imagine what this street could look like, or this park could look like, or my neighborhood could look like if I use these tools. So to have visual planning tools, and I think for a lot of you, whether you're in transportation or highways or something else, environmental, you can see the value of this ability to co-design with people as a form of citizen engagement. This is something that is a blend between citizen engagement and marketing. The Dutch Tourism Bureau has a website called DutchCyclingLifestyle.com. You can go there, DutchCyclingLifestyle.com. You can type in an address, and in this case, I said Las Vegas Boulevard, Las Vegas, Nevada. So this is a picture of Las Vegas Boulevard, Las Vegas, Nevada. And then when I click Reinvent Your Street, it shows me this is what it could look like, with a cycling lanes, pedestrian-friendly passageways, more plants, etc. In other words, if we all lived in Holland, if America were in Holland, this is what it would look like. So you can see the value of that both for urban planning, but in this case, Holland uses it, the Netherlands uses it as a form of marketing campaign to say, come here because we have this better cities with better urban planning. Here is another example of image generation that has been used for a marketing campaign. In this case, Myrtle Beach asked DALL-E very early on. Again, these tools are just a year old, and they often make a lot of mistakes, especially with text. Said, give me a new logo for Myrtle Beach. And what it came up with was it spit out this. So instead of throwing it away, Myrtle Beach actually ran with it. And they renamed themselves Midjourney Best. And they started running this. This is, as you can see, an article from Ad Age, and you'll find lots of things about it online. They started running with this whole ad campaign for this mythical place called Midjourney Best that sort of made fun of these tools, but in the process managed to advertise and create this incredibly viral marketing campaign for Myrtle Beach. So you can imagine running a campaign and now getting other people to create images for you, not just you creating them, and saying, hey, come up with the best image for X or Y or Z that could be used for marketing. And let me keep going here. So we talked a little bit about this already, so I'm going to keep going, and I want to show you a couple more tools so that we have more time. I'm going to come back to that question of after showing you a couple of more things. So one of the things we said last time was you can not only generate, last time we talked about words and text, and we divided our discussion into content generation and the ability to create new words. And then we talked about the ways in which you could use these tools to analyze words, to do things like summarize, integrate, and essentially do research and pulling together lots of sources. We talked about the fact you can analyze computer code. Well, I can also do analysis with images. I can upload an image and I can ask it to do analysis. And let me show you a funny example of this. So here I uploaded a picture of the contents of my refrigerator. Now, by the way, this is not actually my refrigerator. This is actually the contents of a refrigerator. My refrigerator looks a lot more pathetic and does not have this many vegetables. It has, a rather empty carton of milk and not much else in it. It needs some replenishing. But I uploaded this picture of a refrigerator and I said, this is the picture of the contents of my refrigerator. Can you suggest some recipes that I can make with these ingredients. And lo and behold, it said, given these ingredients, and I didn't have enough space to put it. It repeated to me, here is what I see in the picture. But it gave me a whole set of ideas for things I could cook with what's in my fridge. So this is a really practical, personal example. This is super useful when you come home and you go, oh, I have that leftover this and that half head of cauliflower and this other thing. What should I have for dinner? We all know what that's like. Let it give you some recipe ideas. But I want you to start thinking about what I could do with image analysis, where that might be helpful in a government context. Now I want to show you those. So start thinking about that. I want to talk about that in a minute. But I'm going to show you another image analysis context, and this time another tool. It's the tool actually that I use to make this slide deck, and it's effectively a PowerPoint it's a PowerPoint competitor called Canva. The company's headquarters are in Australia. They're a global company. They're publicly listed, but it's a pretty nifty alternative to Google Slides, Google Slides, Microsoft PowerPoint, or Keynote, or one of these things. So I'm going to take a logo, and here I'm going to show this to you live. So I'm going to go out of full screen. Hopefully you can still see the screen share. Is that correct? I'm going to click on this image. I just put in a logo that I copied off the internet. I'm going to click on Edit Photo. Hannah, can you confirm you're seeing this live?
Yes.
Okay, and now I have a whole set of image tools. Again, if I were a professional graphic designer, I would have a lot of tools through Adobe Illustrator and other very high-end graphics programs. But now they're very simple tools using generative AI like this one. This tool right here, I click again, Edit Photo. Here it's BG Remover, Background Remover. I'm going to click this, and lo and behold, it removes that background, and now it's the same color as the background of my slide. So I think I can, oopsie, so I can do that, and now I can, I want to restore it, or I want to do different things with it. I have a whole bunch of different tools you can play with. Magic Edit, Magic Expand. I don't even know what half these things do. Let's try Magic Eraser. So now I want to erase some of this. Let's say I want to erase the word L because I just want to make the word ego. And there we go. I didn't do a very good job of it, but with a little more careful erasing, I would be able to erase that image. So it gives me lots of ways that I can essentially manipulate images in ways that are useful for presentations, for things like doing, slides and other things. And maybe what I'll do, actually, I want to show you one more. If we have a minute, I'm going to show you another few things that I can do. So I am going to add a heading to this. Let's add someone going to give me some text here. What do we want this slide to be about? I need a bit of text. Give me anything. Somebody shout out what I'm going to type here. What do we want this slide to be about?
Toys for builders.
Toys for builders. Okay, toys for builders. And now I'm going to, while we're at it, let's make it a different color so we can see it. Let's make it this color. And now I'm going to click my magic little AI Canva assistant button here. And I have all kinds of things I can do. Whoops, I'm going to say, I would like to expand on this. Oh, and now it has given me a whole bunch. Let me move things so you can see it. I'm going to remove my little Lego. I'm going to delete that for a moment. And now it's written me some text. But now what I want to do is I want to make an image. This is something, first of all, it's given me some text all by itself. But now I want to create an image because we're having a discussion here about images. I'm going to use this. And I would like, let's find where is my image generator? Here we go. Here's some graphics to match my design, or photos to match my design. So I can generate recommendations for images very, very simply. and I can do all kinds of nifty things, or I can get some more. I don't think most of these don't match very well, but you play with it until you get something that's actually useful for you. And then what I could also do, let me see here, I can take my text and I can turn it into other things. I can turn it into something for Instagram. I can turn it into something for social media. I can translate it, etc. So again, lots of analysis tools that we can actually make use of. Or I might want to tell it here. I want to make, I'm going to put in the word toys. Here we go. I'm going to say toys. I'm looking for things about toys, and it's going to give me images right off the bat. I have graphics. I have photos. So maybe let me grab a photo here, see all the photos. Oh, let's go with our Legos over here. And now I'm going to make that the background for my image. Okay. And we will, actually, I won't do anything too funky right now while I have to move my text here. I'll just make this a little smaller. Okay, and there you go. So now I've made a slide, etc. And now I have a funky slide here with an image. All that to say that it can analyze and text to create images. It can analyze images to create text, and it can work in multiple directions. Okay, let me go back to my full screen. But I wanted to show you this idea of using it to make decks. Other examples that you guys can envision for your own work. Either you want to raise a hand or things in the chat. Or questions that people have at this point.
Louise is raising her hand again, and I have a whole backlog of questions that we could I could either put to you now or later, Beth, whatever your preference is.
Okay, well, let's take Louise's comment or question, and then Hannah, if you could pick 3, and then we'll take them now, and then we'll take some more in a minute.
Great.
I was wondering with Canva, especially because we've had accessibility issues with Canva, does it now have magically generate accessible slides? You know, when you just made a slide, could it be made accessible easily? Or, you know, can the future be that you tell these generation tools, here are your standards, whether it's usability, accessibility, branding standards, and you're having people generate images and content that meet a brand and accessible and usable standard?
And again, someone else may have a better answer than I do. What you can do is you tell it the standard. So for example, I was literally just talking about someone with this morning who was saying he did a presentation that was dark on light. And then he had somebody in the room who had a concussion who said, it gives me a headache. Can you make it light on dark instead? The great part is with these tools, I can with one click just go change all the backgrounds. So if you know that in your state, the standards are, you know, light on dark, dark on light, this, that, you know, here's what you need. You can feed it with those criteria. I think it will be really important going forward for governments to use their buying power to say, we want 508 compliance for these tools. You know, if Canva wants to do business with the government, you should make some of these features available. I think that's on us in government as we start to use these tools more to demand those kinds of features. Now, again, there may be something built in some cases that's kind of automating compliance in some ways, but at the very least, these things can be manually generated. So let's go to, I think, very quickly, a couple more questions, and I want to make sure we get to some of our risks conversation.
So great. I mean, I think, Beth, you can, there's a couple of questions on copyright and privacy.
So those are coming up. Those are holding, because what I may do is then I'll just, I'll read them and try to answer them in one go.
Great. Then we have a number of questions that are more around how to. So Elise is asking, is there a way to upload slides with text to a generative AI platform and prompt it to just create images throughout the whole slide deck that relate to the content on each slide? Or do I have to prompt it to create images one by one and then insert that into the slide?
Yeah, right now it's a little more, so you can give it, for example, on Canva, you can give it a document and it will make a whole deck for you based on your document. And I have done that. Like you give it, you have that memo or that policy and you can say, make me a set of slides based on this content. So it will do that. I'm not aware that it will auto-generate images on every slide. There may be a way to script to do that, but I think you have to just go through and say, here's what I want. And he said, but it is so fast that it's relatively easy.
Can I put a couple more how-to questions to you?
All right, give me one more and then we'll do a little more content and then we'll do nothing but Q&A.
Great. Well, back on sort of animation, can you add animation to a still image? And this might be for DALL-E. Can
you add animation to a still image? So on Canva will let you animate an image. I don't know the answer. I don't think that on DALL-E you can animate an image, but I may be wrong. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong or we can try it. I'm not aware that it will do that. But simply I haven't tried it.
Thank you.
I will get back to you on that answer, or maybe we'll try it together and see what the difference is, but they're mainly intended to generate still images. There are other, to be very clear, there's a number of good text to video or image to video. And by that, I mean animated, moving images, pictures. I don't mean it just has to be photorealistic video. There are other platforms that exist now for creating video, and there are literally movies that are coming out now using generative AI to create moving images.
Can I ask you
a
question about all these programs? Have they been vetted by the various departments, agencies, etc., to approve the use of those platforms? Only because there can be information that, different images or different presentations have where we don't have an agreement with those entities, and they can be taking that information from the government, and you're in essence making information that is private public information.
So let me get into the risks here. Thank you. That's a good segue into our risk conversation, and hopefully what I'm about to go through next will answer some of that. And here I want to talk about, let me skip ahead here to say we're in the midst, I have another slide somewhere. I'll just say we're in the midst now of a whole wave of policymaking where the federal government has issued an executive order that of course is instructions to agencies to go out now and come up with the right guidance. Some states have come up with guidance that lays out how employees should use these tools. It's very much a minority of agencies that have done that. So in many cases, either there's an absence of a policy, in some cases there's a policy not to use them, in some cases there's a policy that does exist that explicitly lays out how to use them. In New Jersey, that is exactly what we have. We do have interim guidance that encourages responsible uses of these tools. But nothing that I'm saying here is a substitution for checking with your CTO or CIO for how you use these tools and ensuring that you are clear about what to do with them. There's some other elements to your question, which I'm about to cover, and a few other things I want to say. So one challenge we've seen with some of these tools is that they can hallucinate. That is to say, they can make up stuff that's wrong. So you'll see here, I asked DALL-E, can you show me 2 images of classic analog watch faces showing the time 1 p.m.? So I said, give me an image of a clock at 1 p.m. and these are what I got. And I'm gonna, in the interest of time, I'm gonna tell you why. No matter how many times you ask it, show me a clock at 2 o'clock, at 3 o'clock, at whatever. And this goes back to what I told you earlier, which is the source images. I showed you before the tree, like here are the images of trees that it's trained on. Again, I won't show you all the images of the watches right now in the interest of time, but the short answer is because all the images of watches on the internet are all, and you'll notice it now when you go look, they're all at 10 after 10. It's very hard to get DALL-E or one of these, or Stable Diffusion or one of these other things to give you a clock at another time. Because advertisers discovered that people tend to buy more watches when the watch says 10 after 10. It's somehow the most attractive view of a watch. All the pictures in every ad is 10 after 10. So you can get images that hallucinate. And especially if you ask it to develop something with words, like that Mittery Best, that Myrtle Beach, will often give you words that are just word salad. It's garbage. So you do have to play with these images. You have to be careful about how to use them. We do worry about bias. We do worry about, again, the lack of diversity in the training data. We worry about images that are, let's say, the watch isn't the big problem, but we worry that, for example, let me show you, I'm going to skip ahead to another one. It used to be, if you typed into DALL-E, show me a picture of a surgeon, all you got were images of white men. Because most of the images of surgeons or doctors online were images of white men. So that's what you got. As a result of that bias, however, they have worked hard to essentially program in features to ensure that now when I say show me an image of a surgeon, I'm going to get, this is what it shows me. It gives me an image of a woman. It gives me an image of somebody who presents as African-American. So there's an effort to correct for some of the bias that we will see in images, which can come from the training data on which these image generators are trained. We've all heard about the problem of deep fakes. That is to say, images, especially of real people, that are not real. So you may remember this one that went around the internet, the Pope in a parka, looking pretty fly. He, of course, this is not a real image. This is a fake image of the Pope in a parka. Now, this is kind of endearing and cute and doesn't do too much damage. When these images, though, are things, I'll come back to that one in a second, like images of candidates, political candidates doing things that they never did, when they are images of child abuse, when they are pornographic images of people without their consent, these things, these are deeply concerning, and many jurisdictions are moving to regulate these uses of what we might call deep fakes. And I will show you one more. I'll go back to this. This is in some ways the opposite of this is an even deeper fake. This is a website called thispersondoesnotexist.com. You can go there, thispersondoesnotexist.com. It is exactly what it sounds like. It is a generator of images of people who do not exist. These are pure AI, extraordinarily realistic. None of the people exist in this site. So if you were looking for an alternative to a stock photo, you want a picture of a person for a website, you can go there and just pull an image of a person, confident in the fact that these people are generated by machine. They don't exist because the machines, again, it's just data, a nose, an eye, ears, and they're put together and then creates a very realistic image of a person. But we worry about the dangerous uses and at the same time don't want to inhibit the positive uses of these tools. So this is an image that was taken from, you may have seen this on YouTube or somewhere else, David Beckham did a series of public service announcements against malaria. You'll see these on ads in YouTube. They took David Beckham's face, in this case with his consent, and used it to generate a software version of David Beckham speaking in a dozen different languages. So this was used to create a training video. We've used this at Innovate US to create this training video. This is not a real person. This is an image of this image, AI generated image, was created based on a real person who was paid for their appearance. And we used it to generate this training video really quickly, and also to generate the same video in Spanish, again, really, really quickly. 2 or 3 more quick things here. The United States Copyright Office has said that these AI generated images, copyright cannot be registered in these AI generated images because the element of authorship is not present. So there is no author, therefore, under the copyright law, there is no way to have a copyright in these images. So we are, that doesn't mean that there isn't concern that these tools aren't trained on copyrighted images that were created by real people, but the output of these tools is not copyrighted. So if I create this guy, he is not copyrighted, that image, or I create that excavator that we did for Oren before, that is not copyrightable because there is no authorship. So it is still a somewhat unresolved issue. It's a good thing that many of these tools are trained on open data, that is data from the government in which there is no copyright, which is free for reuse. As you know, the federal government cannot take copyright in a work, and so federal government data and federal government images are also used to build a lot of these tools, but there are also proprietary images that underlie them, and some of these issues are not entirely resolved yet and how they will be treated. Okay, let me pause there for a moment because we talked somewhat about privacy last time and personally identifiable information, and I just want to see if I can find the questions in the chat, or if we can quickly, Hannah, if you want to start to ask me some, and then we'll use the last few minutes to try to ask and answer some additional questions.
Yeah, I mean, most of the questions converged on what are the copyright issues around using these kind of images in generative AI, and also there was one question around what does this mean potentially for artists, and is there any way that they have a mechanism for seeking royalties if their artwork is used?
Yeah, so I would like to think, so let me answer a related question to this. With so much ability to create new images, does it mean we're going to stop hiring graphic designers? I think the answer is no, because Canva has powerful set of tools, but it doesn't mean I know how to use them well to create a beautiful deck. In fact, I just looked at a deck this morning created by somebody on our team. It had lots of great content. They used all of these nifty tools and it still looked awful. And we had the designer pick the fonts, use the tools to style it better. So in the same way that things like Adobe Illustrator and other kind of tools have made graphic designers more powerful, I think it will help graphic designers do their jobs better. And it will help us to use images in places where we wouldn't have used images before. So I can't always afford in government to have every blog post or everything have an image, or maybe to take content that I made for one audience and recreate it for fourth graders with cartoon images. I wouldn't have gone out and done that before. So I think it's enabling us to do things we couldn't have done. And I think we have to be conscious of continuing to use the professionals to do it. I think there are a lot of artists who are also going to make their livings, again, using these tools. Again, it's not to say this fully alleviates all the issues of, and many artists, and there have been artists who have sued now because their artworks are being ingested to create these images, in the same way that we saw artists sue Google when it started to index images and make them searchable on the web, and some of these things will get worked out in the courts. So the input can be copyrightable, yes, because there is an author. If there is a human author, it is copyrightable, but the output is not copyrightable because the output is not considered generated by an author.
Thanks, Beth. I just wanted to surface a comment by Merle, who responded directly to me to the question of animating an image. Merle said the answer is yes. One can do it by using the outpainting function on DALL-E. So thank you for that, Merle.
Oh, I'm going to have to go and try that now. And I see there's lots of exchange of ideas here about things. But we're set to be here just for an hour, so I want to just make sure to formally end on time. Often we do these things as an hour and a half, and obviously we could spend a lot longer talking about uses. But I hope this has inspired some ideas for what you could do with these tools. Again, please go talk to your CIO, CTO, depending on your state and your agency, about uses of these tools and what's okay in your agency. At the very least, though, go and try them at home. Try them with your kids. use them to illustrate their bedtime stories, use them to allow them to create their own books and illustrate them, use them for your presentations, and think about ways, again, that you might ask residents to use these tools to create images for the things that you're doing to make government more engaging, more accessible, more visual. As we started out in the very first comments we had, we tend to be very, very text heavy in government. And if we can give people a picture, that is often worth 1,000 words. So we'll stop with that. Let everybody go who wants to log off. I will stick around if anybody wants to ask any or answer any final questions, and I'll stick around for a few minutes. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. And don't forget, Chris Rowan, next one is when?
Next Wednesday, December 20th, on how to be a responsible AI evangelist for your state with New Jersey's Chief Technology Officer, Chris Ryan, who I can see is on this call. So I will send the registration link to all of you, along with the slides and the recording for this. Thank you for your patience with our Zoom issues today. It's really great to have you. We hope to see you next week and in the new year. We'll take a couple more questions for those who want to stay on. Elise, I see you raised your hand. Beth, thank you for your extra time.
Hi there. Thank you for the great presentation. I was just wondering, I think around some of the issues with like misinformation and disinformation, with some, I guess, information out there not being the most accurate or credible. What's the level of risk with any of the generative AI platforms pulling from, I guess, sources that we wouldn't really want them to be deriving information from? Is having a prompt where we're specific in terms of where the information can come from and where it's sourced, is that kind of the way that we safeguard against any issues there? Or maybe it's just sophisticated enough that it knows what sources are more credible?
Let me be very clear, it's not smart. But the more that you guide it and prompt it, the more that you steer it, and you can refine it. You can say, I want an image of X, and it will, get it wrong. And so the great part is it remembers the last thing you asked it. You know how if you have, I'm going to turn her off. I'm going to say, if you have Siri or Alexa or whatever, and you ask them something, it doesn't remember the last thing you asked it, and you have to start all over again. That'll change soon enough. With ChatGPT or Bard or any of these tools, it remembers the last thing you asked. So you can say, hey, can you refine that? Or can you make this more like this? Or can you pull from here? If I can find it, I'll try to pull up for you guys a slide that I made where I gave it the data I wanted it to visualize. And it still did a terrible job of visualizing it because it tends to be very bad at doing text. It's not good at, just not good at doing text. So I ended up using the image anyway because it was so attractive. But it was just sort of a totally garbled version of what the text actually said. It garbled the words, and I was trying to sort of do a graph, and it just didn't do a good job with it. So, it can take a lot of refinement and prompting.
Thank you.
But that's the best way. The best way is to just keep at it. It's not a one-shot deal. Genesius.
Hi, Beth. Great presentation. I'm sorry I missed the one from last week. I work primarily with fraud in the state of New Jersey, and I was the one that posted that question about, does this face exist? Have we seen anything? Has government seen anyone taking that face and creating a state ID from it? We know that some of those ID services out there have been spoofed. And so...
Oh my goodness. You mean the this person does not exist.com?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was yesterday, I'm going through my parents' basement, and I was trying to decide, do I have to shred information with social security numbers and bank accounts of dead people? So I'm going through passed away parents' paid papers. So I'm very attuned to this question. And I was just thinking about somebody generates a face, uses my mom's old social security number. Eventually, our good folks are going to catch up with them in law enforcement. If you do it, it does make it easier. In other words, if I want to go out and make a fake ID, let's imagine a slightly less pernicious scenario. Let's just say I'm a 20-year-old wanting to buy some beer here. It's going to be awfully, I can use it to generate an image. Yes. We do obviously have fraud rules in place and impersonation rules in place, but it's just a little bit different than the deep fake problem of the deep fake problem of taking a real person and having them doing something that they weren't doing. So the Pope in the puffer jacket, where we worry about manipulative images that are done about real people without their consent. The this person does not exist project is, none of those people are real. But yeah, could it make it easier to do these tools make it easier to commit a fraud? Sure they do. So you can try. It's very, very, very uncanny. I'll put the URL here in the chat. Whoops, that is not the right. No, whoops. Did it come? Yes, I did put it in the chat. Sorry, someone else has put a link in there too. So you can try it. It's very, very uncanny because the people do look incredibly real. Yes, so I'm sure we're going to hear about all kinds of interesting crimes that have been perpetrated because these tools have made it faster and easier, but we have been committing crime since day one, so it's just about making it easier.
And the second question I wanted to say was more of a comment, since I wasn't on that first one. A scenario that we used, or that I used for the text for ChatGPT, was I said I have a pie chart and there's 20 different slices, and I don't want it to be just from one color to another. So I actually trained it to say I want a dark red and then a slightly lighter red. So that's for slices 1 and 2. Then I said I want you to go just down slightly from slice 1 for slice 3. Do that same thing, slice 4 compared to, so I'd have little gradations, and it would be, so you could actually see it, because you know when you do a variety of colors, or if you do a single color going gradation, it's like, wait, where's the dividing line between these? And it took me about 45 minutes or so to train it. I didn't realize that it was already taking in everything I already did. So I kept asking the question over again and putting on my new, it took me a while to figure that out. But it absolutely worked. And then when I needed to write the code for my program, I just said, here's how these one statement looks with the tags on it and the proper syntax. I said, okay, write all 20 of those slices for me. And it did it in seconds.
Just like that. And that's the reason we encourage responsible experimentation, because learning by doing is, the first time it took you 45 minutes and the next time it'll take you, 5 minutes, because you learn by doing all the things that are possible. And frankly, until you experiment with some of these things, one of the things we said last time is it's like having 1,000 interns, or depending on the task, 100 interns or 1,000,000 interns, in the same way that you would have said to the interns, go do this and do it over again and do it over again. But I think the exciting things for government is that it's allowing us to do things we would just not have ever been able to do. It's not replacing anybody. It's not getting rid of interns. It is just allowing us to go beyond in ways we couldn't have thought about before.
Yeah, good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And I appreciate all the people who've stuck around. Any additional comments, questions, anything in the chat you want to repaste in that we want to take a look at? And if not, we will let everybody get back to wrapping presents. That it will not do for you. But if you do need to know what to get as a present, it can help with that. If you want to make an original card for Christmas, I encourage you to go to one of these tools and have it design an image for you so you can personalize your Christmas card. And I've just saved you $5.95 on a Hallmark card. And that is my closing piece of advice.
Thanks so much, Beth. Thanks for all of you for joining us this afternoon, and we hope to see you next week. Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you.